Alright everyone, doing this video today basically to just go over Yu-Gi-Oh collecting for anyone who's getting into the hobby with a background in a different similar hobby like Pokemon or Magic. I'm going to try and explain a couple of different things for anyone who isn't particularly familiar, especially with the older Yu-Gi-Oh sets like Legend of Blue Eyes, on some of the nuances. So we're going to start off with LOB because that's the first set. So if you're not particularly familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh, the comparable would be like base set with Pokemon or your Alpha Beta with Magic. The unique thing with Yu-Gi-Oh though is that it has two different first edition print runs. So kind of like your Alpha Beta, except if Beta was worth more than Alpha. So basically there's two different types of card stock. Let's see if I got a glossy one here in my stack. Wavy. That's wavy. There we go. Okay, so this is what you would consider glossy. Pretty well, all the Dragon Champions are going to be glossy. There's just a normal, smooth, glossy finish to the cards. Then you get into something. Let's get something that really pops. Yeah. If you get into something like this, this is a wavy first edition Swords of Revealing Light. So the card has like ripples and waves to it. Another example would be Red Eyes Black Dragon. Super hard to try and get it on camera like this. You can check out my Instagram if you want to see some better pictures on the differences. So basically, glossy has pretty much been confirmed to have come first, but wavy, according to most people, myself included, think that the wavy cards look nicer and they're harder to find because there's a giant disparity in the supply of wavy versus glossy. So if you look at a first edition Legend of Blue Eyes box, there's three different print runs. There's your glossy Trihorn Dragon. There's your glossy Guy of the Dragon Champion. Then you've got your wavy Trihorn Dragon. So it's pretty easy to distinguish the boxes when you know what to look for. I'll go in that in a different video. But the main thing is, for every two glossy boxes, you're only going to find one wavy box. So because of that, it's way more harder to find wavy cards, especially in PSA 10 or Beckett 9.5s, depending on what your preference is, than it is to find the glossy cards. And as a result, even though they came second, they actually carry a pretty substantial premium. Anywhere from 25 to 100% extra on top of the cost of a glossy card. So basically, if I was trying to compare it for Pokemon, it would be like if you had two different print runs of base set, first edition. They both have the first edition stamp, but one was a shadowless print run, where all the cards have like the shadowless hollow look to them. The card stock itself looks different, and the pictures themselves look different of the Pokemon on them. And if you had another first edition print run where it had all the unlimited cards, like artwork and card stock and all that. So if you had a first edition unlimited stock run and your shadowless stock run, it would be comparable to what's going on here. Because with the wavy cards, they actually look a lot different, especially if you get into what we like to call faded wavy. The card stock itself looks significantly different than the normal excuse me, than the normal card stock. The prevailing theory and all that is that the magenta was running a bit low in the toners when they were printing them off. Yeah, pretty much all my wavies are faded, so it's kind of hard to show difference. Let's show you here. Okay, Blue Eyes, White Dragon, and Trihorn Dragon. Nice wavy guy. Also a nice wavy guy. See the difference in the color of the cards? So, if you've got wavy first edition LOB stuff, generally, if you're comparing condition to condition, so you know, if you got your PSA 10, you're comparing with the PSA 10, your wavy is going to have a higher premium than your glossy. So that's the first thing to try and understand with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not cut and dry, even when you're talking the same sets. When you get into the second set, Metal Raiders, a nice one I can show that. Yeah, my change of heart, it's pretty faded. When you get the Metal Raiders, you have the same situation where you have faded first edition Metal Raider cards. I'm under the belief that they came out of the same print machine as the wavy faded cards, and that the faded Metal Raiders is probably the first print run of that particular set, just because the coloring on the cards is pretty darn close to being the same. That's just my opinion. I have no way of backing it up, but just looking at the card stock and like the coloration on the cards, that's a nice change of heart. Probably my favorite card in Classic Yu-Gi-Oh! They kind of line up, so it would make sense if the faded MRD Metal Raiders cards came from the same factory right after the first edition wavy LOB stuff did. If you're looking at the pop report for PSA or even Beckett on a lot of these cards, they're way lower than any of the first edition Pokemon. Basically, because in Pokemon, you have one English set for base first edition, base unlimited. With Yu-Gi-Oh! You have a bunch of them. So, like, if you went over to, say, Australia when first edition base set came out, you're still getting the same cards, still have the same numbers on them as if you bought them in California. With Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a bunch of different English first edition print runs. You've got your North American English, which is just your normal standard, down in the bottom right-hand corner of the cards. It says LOB dash and whatever your card number is. With stuff from Europe, it goes LOB-E, and then your card number. If it comes from Australia and New Zealand, I think the official name on it's Oceanic, you get into your LOB-A, and then you've also have what is called Asian English First Edition. It looks way different than any of the other print runs. It has a giant Japanese Konami logo on the back. The card stock is completely different. The color contrast is a lot closer to like the modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to what you call, you know, your old school, your classic Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's one thing to keep in mind. Just because it says first edition LOB on the pack, you've got to make sure that you're buying it from the right region. Asian English ones are pretty easy to tell the difference. They've got a giant Japanese logo on the front. So hopefully you won't have any problems telling the difference on them. But the country-specific ones like Europe or for Australia and New Zealand, they've got 4 in whatever country up on the top right-hand corner of the booster pack. So make sure if you're buying anything like that and you're just getting your feet wet, you don't buy something from the wrong country. because they go for considerably less than your first edition North American stuff. So, quick recap. LOB is king when it comes to your sets. With Yu-Gi-Oh, like I said, it's comparable to your base set Pokemon, your Alpha, Beta Magic. Different print runs of the first edition card stock, even with North America. You've got your glossy and your wavy. Some other people say there's a third print run. Not getting into that today. So for all intents and purposes, we're just going to stick to your glossy wavy. When you get into your different country codes, they go for considerably less. Asian English first edition LOB or any of the other classic sets is comparable to your like International Collector's Edition with Magic. If you dabble in that, the card stock looks different. The backs are different. Generally doesn't appeal to as much people. But if you're looking for first edition stamp on any of the classic cards, it's way cheaper option if you're trying to go that route. Same thing as Magic. Doesn't command anywhere near the same price as Alpha Beta, but there still is a market for it, and the market has been increasing on that, particularly in the last several months. Full disclosure, I have one of the biggest positions in old school Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, especially in LOB. Some of my cards here I just had for demonstration purposes. I'm not trying to hype this stuff up, because the cheaper it is, the easier it is for me to buy. But this stuff has been coming extremely scarce as of late, especially because as more people get back into the hobby from when they were kids, you know, they've got a house now, they got a decent paying job, you know, they might already have their kids here, you know, you're not going through all that 20s, early 30s drama where you're trying to get yourself situated in life. The prices do go up. You've got your articles coming out in magazines like SMR that I've helped with a bit. They also tend to push prices up higher. That's a whole different story altogether. So when you get into it, the prices in classic Yu-Gi-Oh especially, and for anyone who's wondering what that means, we're talking about their original 11 sets that had secret rares in the boxes. So it goes from Legend of Blue Eyes all the way to Ancient Sanctuary. Those were the first 11 sets. They're generally considered your classic Yu-Gi-Oh! And the easiest way to compare it to for Pokemon people would be like your WotC era. So generally those sets command more than the other sets. They're a lot more collectible in the sense that people go for them. But when you get into like your subsequent series of Yu-Gi-Oh products, like your GX and your 5Ds, they do have extremely high pricing on some of the products just due to scarcity. Back to Pokemon again, it'd be like your EX era Pokemon when you get into your GX, just because the print run is so low, but a lot of the cards from that era are popular cards from the TV show. So if you came up through watching like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, you ever watched the original Yu-Gi-Oh! When you were a kid, and you see like your favorite elemental hero card, and you want to get that in first edition, you're going to be paying a premium for it. Especially with the GX era stuff, because they have different rarities. And I'll get into that more in a different video, but for GX and a few of the other different series, you have a different rarity called Ultimate Rare, where there's a texture to the cards, kind of like your Shining Pokemon cards. Like, there is a nice textured look to the card. They go for extremely higher prices than their normal foil variants. Most of the cards have extremely low populations, like sub 10. PSA also doesn't have an accurate population report with them because they only started tracking the Ultimate Rare rarity in the last year or so. And kind of skipped over this a bit, but I might as well go back to it. With Yu-Gi-Oh! You have different rarity for the original 11 sets. I'll get out a couple to show you the difference. So basically it goes your easiest normal card, we'll call it, from a pack is your normal non-hollow. Some stuff from a PSA submission going out. So just a general trading card. There's no special stamp or foiling to differentiate it. Just your normal stock card. Then you get into a rare card. You can see the name has a shiny silver ink stamp. That's how you tell it's rare. After rare, you get your super rares. So generally, there's 4 of these per box in your classic box of Yu-Gi-Oh! Out of 24 packs. So you have a foil card, but there's nothing special on the go with the name up top. Then you get into your ultra rare. There's generally 2 of these in every classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Box. It's, again, a foiled card. And you've got a gold stamp up here for the name. And then you get into your secret rares. There's only 2 in every 3 boxes will have a secret rare in your classic Yu-Gi-Oh! It's got a silver stamp. The foiling is parallel. You've got all kinds of funky things going on in the hollow. They're super nice. Generally, the ultra rares will have really high prices compared to the super rares because they're twice as hard to get. But there are some super rares that are extremely hard to grade. We'll get into that in another video. Secret rares from most of the sets are the most desirable cards usually. Funny enough, except for LOB. In Magician's Force, you've got your Dark Magician Girl, and Labyrinth of Nightmare, you've got your Magical Cylinder, your Gemini Elves. You get into Pharaoh Servant, you got your Jinzo. All these super iconic cards from the TV show are going to be your super rares, and because of their popularity and scarcity, generally they command higher prices because they're harder to find in mint condition because they're played so much, and they also go for generally higher prices because a lot of them are harder to grade. We'll talk about that a bit later on. Pop on, most of them are pretty low, especially if you're comparing them to Pokemon. You're looking at gold star, roughly rare level rarity. So when you combine all that, a lot of the secret rares from classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Are super expensive compared to some of their super rare or their ultra rare counterparts. I'll get into some more stuff in the next few videos, but that's your basic introduction to collecting old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Sorry if I rambled a bit. We'll try to get into some more stuff in the next few videos, and have a good one.